Today, voters in Michigan are casting their votes in that state's presidential primary. And some Democratic activists say they're hoping to send a message to President Biden by voting uncommitted. It follows growing frustration among some Muslim and Arab Americans over the administration's handling of the war in Gaza.
4 years ago, I voted for Joe Biden. It was important that we vote to get Trump out of office. And today I feel very disappointed in Joe Biden, and I don't feel like I did the right thing last election.
For more, we're joined now by Michigan Democratic Party Chair Lavora Barnes. Welcome to the NewsHour.
Great to be here. Thank you so much, Jeff.
So this push by some Democratic activists to urge voters to vote uncommitted in this primary, this has really picked up steam since it was launched earlier this month, to the point where now even Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer is saying that she expects, in her words, a sizable number of protest votes against President Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war. Do you agree with that? And what's your level of concern?
I am so thrilled that so many folks are participating in this process. We fought hard to be an early state and to have our voices heard early in this primary process. And that's exactly what's happening. Over 1 million folks grabbed ballots early on and voted. And I am happy that these folks are reaching for the Democratic ballot and participating in this process. And I'm looking forward to taking this enthusiasm and interest in the process into November, where the question is Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. And we know the answer is Joe Biden.
They might be taking the Democratic ballot, but they're not voting for the Democratic candidate.
They're making their voices heard, Jeff, and I'm pleased that they're able to do that. That's part of this process. We have a big tent, and part of the reason we built this tent and part of the reason we wanted to be part of this process was to make sure that the voices of Michiganders were part of the overall conversation. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And this president's listening. We're listening. You know, you heard the president yesterday say that he's expecting to have some news about a ceasefire probably as early as next week. That's great news. And that's a sign that he's been listening to these folks here in Michigan. And that's what we wanted.
Well, as you said, Michigan Democrats pushed for the state's primary to be earlier this year to give the state a greater voice in the overall electoral calendar and to really highlight President Biden's perceived areas of strength with black voters around Detroit, with union workers. But there's a survey from Detroit News and WDIV-TV last month that showed President Biden really has weak support from nearly all of the Democrats' key constituencies. That's black voters, voters between the ages of 18 and 29, and those holding college degrees. How is the party aiming to turn that around?
So that's you exactly described my job, right? I am organizing our team, our volunteers, our staff, and our leaders across the state. We've been talking to voters and we'll continue talking to voters at their doors, on their phones, wherever we can find them, even in their social media, to make sure we're telling the story of the Biden-Harris administration and what they've done on behalf of Americans and Michiganders. Think about the manufacturing jobs they've brought back to this state, the good union paying jobs that have come here, and of course, the protection of reproductive rights. We're going to continue to have that conversation and also talk about the contrast between the choice which they'll have in November, which is either Joe Biden or turning back the clock to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's been very clear about who he is, what he's done. We're going to tell the story of his record. We're going to tell the facts of who he is, what he has said he will do. The man wants to be a dictator. He calls people of color poison. He is not good for America and absolutely not good for Michiganders.
Can President Biden win Michigan without the support of those Arab American and Muslim Americans who say they are profoundly unhappy and disappointed with what they see as his unwavering support of Israel?
We're going to continue having those conversations. The president's going to keep listening to folks, and we're going to win in November, building that coalition that we have had in place for several cycles now and making sure that folks turn out and support the president, recognizing that otherwise we may end up with Donald Trump, which is unacceptable to these communities.
Lavora Barnes is the Democratic Party Chair for the state of Michigan. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.